up, people? Welcome into Montgomery and Company. I'm Renee Montgomery. We got the California legend today, and it's Haley Jones. And for the people that don't know, I had people literally text me when we drafted Haley saying, "Oh, you got a legend, a Cali legend coming through." So we got her coming through. We talked to her at the beginning of the season during training camp, Moco on the Go. Sometimes we have to meet people where they are. Sometimes I take y'all with me for Moco on the Go. But right now, a little bit halfway through the season, we're sitting in sixth place. And as you guys know, it could change literally right after we film this, but we're hovering around that area. So we're feeling good, feeling like we got a little bit of swagger. And speaking of swagger, we have the creator and executive producer, Reggie Bythewood, coming on to talk all about doing things that's never been done before. Let's go! Okay, so I wanted to talk this week about strikes, like going on strike, having a strike. There's the writer strike going on right now. There's the actor strike going on. And there's also, I don't know if people know, but there's a UPS strike that was going on. It's almost being resolved, but I haven't heard as of this recording if it has or hasn't been yet. But also, if you're into football and the NFL, you might have been privy to the running backs have a little problem going on right now. And the problem is that they're not sure if they're being valued for their work, just to put it in just as basic terms as you can. The running backs contracts have pretty much gotten lower and lower with time. And you would hope that as sports goes on, you get paid more and more, but it's looking like for the running back position, it's not a position that's valued. So the question was posed, do people think that the running backs will band together and basically demand better pay for their position? And that's the thing about a strike in a union, because of course there's going to be guys that are like, look, I only have a small window, and football is even different than basketball and other sports. In football, you only have a small window of how long you can play, how long you're healthy, how long any of those things can happen. You have a small window of when your athletic ability is at its peak. So what if I'm a player who I had a great training camp, a great off season, all of the above, and now I need to band with the group for a better cause? It might be hard for that player. He might be having an MVP season ahead of him. So he's thinking, I want to play. And then you got another player that's like, you know what? It's bigger than us. You know, like I might be having a good season too, but I might have to sit this season out if they don't give us the deals that we want to get, or demand, or the demands, they don't meet our demands. That's the thing about a strike. And that's the thing about a union. So when I start to think about the actors strike and the writer's strike, there's so many people that are all on the same accord. Like I haven't really seen any actors or writers, and not that they would publicly come out and say it, but it pretty much seems like all of them are very much so on the same accord. Why do I think that matters? Because that means that the issues that they're fighting for are so strong that every single person, from the top actors to the actors that are still trying to make it, still trying to get a job, from the top to the beginning, every single one feels very strongly. Like you don't even hear people say like, yeah, I kind of stand with it. It's like people are like, no, this is ridiculous. I stand with the writers. I'm a part of the SAG. Like people feel so strongly about this that it makes you think, okay, well, for sure they're fighting for a strong cause. Like people are not, I think about this often. Serena and I talk about it. Like, you know how tough it is to stand 10 toes down on something when you're running out of money, or when you're trying to still pay bills, or you got a kid that you have to take care of? Do you know how hard it is to say it with your chest when you're under those circumstances? It's a very hard thing to do, but that's what the actors and the writers and all of them are currently doing right now. Heading into the fall, heading into the Christmas season, heading into the new year, right now they're all standing 10 toes down because they feel like this is that important. The same with UPS. I know you guys might have seen where there was a talks about the pilots. I don't know where we are with that either, in a sense of, I know that there's rumblings. There's a lot of people who, with their unions or with their groups, they're thinking about a strike. And so I don't know. It makes me think, I mean, I know I was a part of the executive committee in the WNBA one year where that's what happens, in a sense of, if one side can't agree with the other side, a strike happens. And so, man, I'm like very hopeful. I hope that agreement can be made, because first of all, I'm somebody that I enjoy entertainment. I enjoy television shows. I get way too invested. I get way too involved in them. I get sad when they're over. I'm that type. I want to see the newest movie out. I'll binge watch a whole show in a day. But I also want the people that created that to get their share and to get their fair money's worth. And so for me, it's like we will always, as a group, stand with people fighting to get their fair share. I feel like everything is synonymous in women's sports as well. Women's sports are trying to get their fair share of media rights, of TV money, like everybody's trying to get their fair share. So of course, we all got to stand on the same type of causes, because I forget what the saying is. I'm going to mess it up, but isn't like a rising tide, something all ships? Y'all know the drill. Like, it's like something Roy's typing to me right now. Lifts all ships. Thank you, Roy. So I just feel like when certain situations like this happen, we all got to just be, we all we got. And I always am going to be like that. So of course, MoCo, we stand with the writers' strike. We stand with the actors' strike. And we just hope that a resolution comes, because it's not like everybody loses when the family feuds. That's what the saying is as well. So that's how I feel. Like, I feel like if you strike, it has to be something that's strong enough to strike about, and we know that it is. And so now I just hope that there's a resolution that both sides can be happy with.
All right. So first of all, welcome to Atlanta. Haley Jones is in the building. All right. So I want to know how the city's treating you, because you're a Bay Area legend, is what people, you're the West Coast shawty. Okay. So how has the East Coast been treating you?
Well, it's been great so far. I haven't had much time to explore. Training camp takes up most of my time. But what I have gotten to, I know it's humid here. I'm not used to that. Every time I leave the house, I need to shower. I'm sweating everywhere I go. Traffic, not the best, but everything outside of those two things, I'm loving the ATL
but
so far.
Traffic, I mean, isn't it supposed to be traffic where you came from?
No, there's traffic in LA. We don't. SoCal, that's not for me. I'm a NorCal girl, Bay Area. So it's not bad.
So you said training camp's been taking up most of your life, and there's been a large conversation about like adjustments in the jump for college players to pros. So like, how has your training camp been?
It's been good. I think having vets and just players on the team who set the standard from the beginning, but are also just good people. Yeah. So when I'm having a hard time or I'm asking questions, it's never like short and snappy. It's okay, let me walk you through this, let's talk about it, whatever it may be. But I think the biggest jump has really just been the pace. It's fast all the time, and Coach T ain't gonna let up. It's pace, Haley, 24/7.
Love it. Okay, so it's pace, but you also got you shouted somebody out, I think, because I be at practice every day. So I mean, but you shouted somebody out. And you talked about the vet leadership and different things. But if you could tell yourself 2 weeks ago, before you started training camp, like, what would you tell Haley 2 weeks ago now that you've experienced training camp?
I think I would tell myself 2 weeks ago, just like to buy in from the first day. I think Coach T and our conversations a lot of time are just like, trust yourself, do what you do. And so I think at the beginning of training camp, I was getting really caught up in just the anxiety, the nerves to perform. It's your job. You need to make a team to have a job now. So I was just getting so caught up in that I wasn't playing like myself. And I always play best when I'm having fun and I'm loose. So I think it would really just be, buying from the jump, understand that you're here for a reason, and, play your game.
You got this. First of all, you got this. And you play like point guard as well, right? So I'm a point guard through and through. I like to have conversations with point guards, because only point guards know the struggle. And I'm going to tell you this struggle of everything's going wrong. You did nothing wring, but it's your fault.
100%. 100%. Every time. It's like I have been learning the plays from every position. Yes. And so the other day, it was before I ran point the first time, and I only learned the wing. Coach D goes, all right, Haley, someone run the one. I ran that play so wrong. I got up in there, and then all week at practice, okay, we're running this play. Haley, run it again. Run it again. And I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. But it's like the pace, that's on you. The passes, everything's on you. You set the tone. So it's fun being a point guard, but there's definitely like a certain standard with it.
There's complete standards, and you've kind of set your standard, though, your bar high in the media space, because you built a foundation. I mean, you have a podcast. I hoop too, or I hoop sometimes.
Sometimes I hoop.
Sometimes I hoop. Let me get it right.
You're
okay.
Right.
Sometimes
you have the words.
I hoop, but what is it like now? Like, you're your own brand, and so this was different for players like me. Like, we weren't our brand coming into the pros. We started in the pros. So, like, what is it like? You're a brand, but you're also in training camp, and you're trying to figure it all out.
I mean, it's definitely different. I think I've had trial runs doing NIL in college, so it prepared me to figure out what my time schedule is going to look like, my day-to-day routine. I think now it's a little easier because I don't have class every day. True. I have it only like once a week now, but when I was
once a week,
yeah, I'm still in class. But like at Stanford, it's like I have 3 classes a day, and then I'm in the gym for 5 hours, and then I'm doing the podcast, and I have homework.
And you film every week?
Yeah. We're filming every week. It's starting to come back because training camp was a lot, and so they gave me a little time. But
that's what's up.
Yeah, it's coming back. But I think now it's just like I have more time, and so it's making use of my time. So it's figuring out when to be in the gym, when to do recovery, when to do the podcast and other work.
I mean, because there's the thing about the podcasting. Draymond Green is, you know, he has podcasts right after the show. So should I be expecting you to blast us on the pod when you mad? Or are you going like, and let it fly? Like, what?
No.
Should I be prepared? I mean, you're right. Because this is, I'm just saying.
I'm not the type, I won't be up, like, if I don't play in a game and I'm like, so, this is the tea. I won't be doing any of that.
Spill the tea, because there is a spill the tea pod. So I'm just you're not going to.
There is. That's not what Sometimes I Hoop is for.
Okay.
I hope it won't become that. It's really just a platform where I've used it to talk about. So Sometimes I Hoop was my Instagram bio for years on end. And it was just really like, basketball isn't all that I am, and talking about how you're more than an athlete. You have other things going on outside of basketball. And I think it's cool being like a player-to-player podcast. I'm able to, you know, ask different questions. I'm going through the same things they are. There's a camaraderie there. And so just talking about questions that you may not get asked on a typical thing, like what's your day-to-day look like, asking about why they chose their school, different struggles, things of the sort, talking about when it was in college, NIL space. So questions will change now that I'm in the pros and talking to the pros, but that's kind of the basis of it, just showing more than athlete.
Didn't you talk to Ryan Howard's mom too or something?
Yeah,
you had a mom's pod, right?
We had a Black Mama Network roundtable.
Come on with it.
And so it was me, my mom, Ryan's mom, Aaliyah Boss's mom, and Jordan Horson's mom.
That is so lit. Like, and so that's the kind of things that you want to do with something, because we all share this commonality. That's kind of what I talk about sometimes on my, like, there's such a different experience when you're an athlete or when you're a mom of an athlete, as opposed to when you're just a mom. And so is that like what you're kind of diving into? Yeah, just talking about the different experiences that we have and just like the commonalities, because I have friends outside of basketball, but they can't relate to the same things I'm going through. And so it's nice when I have friends on other teams and I have them on the podcast, we're talking about, you know, the struggles that we may have, what they're doing in the space outside of basketball, how they feel their days. But it's also like, you know, we're at such a high level and there's so many expectations. How do you not get burnt out? How do you continue to do what you do at the highest level? What's your answer?
For me, my answer is like being a whole person. Like when I get out of basketball, I'm gonna put my work in every day, be in the gym extra and do this and that. But like once I leave the basketball world, I need another hobby. I need something to do, whether that's cooking, you know, yoga, whatever that may be, having a social life and understanding that.
This is amazing. You're a new age athlete. Like I'm so happy for you guys, because it's like, man, like this is how it should be. You have a life on top of your life. Usually women's sports is harder to do that because we're traveling and everything. But like that's crazy. What are goals for you this year?
I try not to do individual goals. I think those come, but my goals are to win. I want to get better and I want to win. So, yeah.
Listen, let's just win this. Shoot. I appreciate you stopping by.
So that's Haley Jones, who's in her rookie season right now with us, the Atlanta Dream. And honestly, you guys, like, I don't care if you were a top athlete. I was the number 4 pick on a championship team that went undefeated my senior year in college at UConn. And still going to the WNBA, it's a jump. It is an adjustment. And so I always like, you guys, I know that fans are like, yeah, we don't care. We want the production. But it's like, we really do got to give rookies some grace, because it is not easy to go to a new system, go to a whole nother league, learn the players, learn the plays, learn your role on the team, all of the above. It's just really not easy. So I'm just going to say, give the rookies some grace. And speaking of giving grace, man, I'm telling you right now, Reggie Bythewood and what he's doing with the show Swagger on Apple TV, it's crazy. It's inspired by experiences Kevin Durant had in his life, but the show is one of my faves to watch with my son because he's a hooper, so he feels like he's in the grind with him too. We got Reggie Bythewood telling us all about things that he's never done in film before, but it's never been done in film before. Coming up now. As we know, Gina Prince Bythewood was on the show previously. We love a good love in basketball. We'll get into that a little later. But we're here with Reggie Bythewood, who is the creator and showrunner of, honestly, one of my favorite shows on Apple TV, plus Swagger. So welcome to the show, Reggie. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. How you doing?
I'm good, man. So
Mm,
season 2 of Swagger dropped.
yeah.
My son and I are avid fans, and he's away right now on the cruise. So no spoilers on some of the recent ones because I'm not
Mm.
caught up. But what highs and maybe even some lows has season 2 brought you? Because there's a lot of viral clips in a good way going on about Swagger.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the like amazing things about the show, and it's really great when you actually can work on something and like you as yourself can learn from it and grow from it, right? So like in season one, there were a couple of like major challenges that happened, like the pandemic hit. And just the fact that we actually embraced that as a part of our storytelling, like made the show better. So now we come into season two, and Renee, like while we were waiting for the season two pickup, one thing these kids kept doing was growing. It's like they got so big, and it really felt weird to like come into season two and say they're 10th graders, and so I actually like just embraced their true life age. And now we just really settle in mainly in senior year. And what's great about that is that it just like really lets us deal with like the urgency and the angst that, a lot of people, a lot of athletes, a lot of just young folks in general feel when they're just really trying to put their life together. So just even by embracing like the authenticity of the fact, like some of my dudes now are like 6'9" and 6'7", and voices are deeper than mine. I just feel like made the show better.
Oh, I love that. And so that's
Mm.
like it's interesting because in season 1, okay, we understand that I love this show. We were fans of the show. What's that process like waiting for season 2? Like what things need to happen? Because I literally remember tweeting O'Shea and I'm like, do I need to start a campaign? Let me know what I need to do to get season 2 coming. So
Right.
like what things greenlight a show?
I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, one is, if there's engagement or viewership, that's ultimately like some of the main things. And sometimes it's just really whether or not, there's a feeling that the show has legs, and then it becomes budget. And then it also becomes to like, what do you want to do in season two as a storyteller? So, I just had a very strong point of view that much of what I wanted to do in season two is really focus on the high school game, but just also like how do we use the environment they're going to be put in? Like how do we hold a mirror up to society and what's going on in the world right now? And so really being able to put all those elements together, just pitch to everybody what we wanted to do, and we're doing it.
No, I love that because I think Stranger Things even mentioned that where the kids started to outgrow the script, where you can't control that. You can't
Right,
control that. You said like they're 6'9", they're growing, but that
right.
also made me think if these guys are super athletic, like when you're a videographer, how do you keep up? And Swagger was all over my timeline because you guys had camera operators on roller blades shooting certain scenes. Like, how did that come about?
I mean, like a long decades ago, I did a movie called Biker Boys, and I filmed some of the stuff with a guy on rollerblades, but the cameras are like so like big and heavy back then. It was just really hard to do, and I've been looking for an opportunity to do something like that again. And so, we just got lighter cameras, and really just thought it was like a great way to like one of the things I want to make sure we do as an audience is not feel like we're spectators, but feel like we're a part of the action. And so being able to have like this dude on rollerblades do it really just keeps you just like engrossed in the action in the game in a way that we haven't seen before. And even though there's like maybe one or two other shows that are actually like borrowing our technique, you know, I love that because then it makes us come back in season two and have to, be even stronger. And so, but it's been great. It's been a really great experience. And yeah, our dude, John Like, a camera operator on rollerblades, just really, it's just been really amazing and fun to just photograph it that way.
That's crazy. And speaking of us being a part of the experience, I'm telling you right now,
Hmm.
there was a clip, all right, and when okay, somebody asked the DJ to play a throwback song, and the
Right.
DJ played Busta
I
Rhymes.
know. Right.
Matthew
Right.
Cherry said that was painful. Okay, so
That,
I'm
yeah, that
like,
was crazy. Well, because actually what Jay says is he says, "Can you play something old?" He
Oh,
didn't say
something
old.
old.
He was like, "Can you play something old?" You know, and they was like, "Bet, I got you." You know, but yeah, that's fun. I mean, that's the other thing too. Is like we really look, we go in hard on the character work and the storytelling, and really have a lot of deep subject matter we want to attack, but also just by nature of their age and the characters is also fun, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. And so how much does KD have, you said you go deep into the characters, like how involved is KD in the process of making Swagger, considering it's inspired by experiences he had in his real life?
Yeah, I mean, I just had like one marathon interview with him, if you will, you know, at the start of it. And I mean, one of the things that was a couple of things we decided. One was we were going to make it a contemporary story, and because there's so many different things happening now. I mean, social media is on another level than it was when he was coming up. Um, NIL deals, name, image, likeness deals. So I really wanted to be a current story. So I just spent like a lot of time understanding like the dynamics of what he dealt with coming up, and really feeling like he could go to the pros and all the sort of obstacles in his way. And then I just kind of like let it rip from there. Like there was no mandate to do every single thing that happened in his life. So some of it's inspired by his life, some of it's fictionalized, and you know he's just been accessible. You know when I felt like I needed to just hit him up on something, you know, but bulk of it has really been from these few days in a row that we've just chopped it up, and really just you know got a lot of great things from that.
That's crazy. And so do you kind of even still kind of watch things that are happening in his life now? Because he lives like he's a very out loud player in a sense of he's very accessible on Twitter. You talk about he's accessible to you guys. I feel like he's even accessible to the fans. And so do you take like current things that happen with him and kind of just bank it into how would how would his character maybe like be in the future and showing
Hmm.
glimpses of that, like leaving breadcrumbs even or something?
I mean, I just think like there's some things that just organically just fit in, you know, and so we do that. But we also like one of the things we do on Swagger is we want to get a view from every seat in the house. So that means that we want you to see it from the player's point of view, the parents' point of view, the coach's point of view. So, you know, there's a lot of other elements we draw inspiration from. The other thing, Renee, is like, you know, we see these dudes in season two in their senior year of high school, and at the time that we were working on it, my youngest son was in his senior year of high school. He's a D1 baseball player, but at the time, so he was going through all this angst of what is he going to do with his life. So it's like we got KD, and then we got research and just real life things that we pull from. I think that's really what makes the show feel authentic.
No, I love that. It does. And even O'Shea like embodies like I played AAU, you know, and so he
Right,
feels like that AAU coach that almost cares more about his players in his own life. Like we all know
right,
that coach
right.
that gives his everything to his players. How involved were you in the casting process and what made you guys know that O'Shea was the one?
Yeah, no, it was, as the creator of the show, I got to be, I got to be on everything, so definitely very involved in the casting and things with O'Shea. Honestly, I had this call with him. It was a Zoom call, pandemic and all. And he was like 2 minutes late. And I was like, man, what? I don't know how this is going to go. And then he said, yo, my bad, Reg. And he started telling me about his daughter and how he had to put her down and like all this, had to put her to sleep and all the drama that was going on with his, I think his daughter's 2 years old at the time. And, I knew that fatherhood was going to be a big part of our narrative and that Ike was going to have, a young daughter. So like immediately right in there when he just led with the fatherhood part of it, um, I was really like, I feel like this could be the guy. And then we just had a great conversation. He knows so much about basketball and actually coached, so it was really organic to him. And then, if you know Shay, we did this. And this is like our first, real meeting, right? We're hanging up the call and he says, all right, man, yeah, great talking to you, man. Go Lakers. And he hangs up.
Of course he did.
That's that dude. Yeah.
Wow. So I love it. So
Mhm.
even though it was the things about him like that already were in there, like he had a daughter, he was a father, you could see it already. I
And
mean,
he knew
he
the game.
not
He loved the game. You know, kind of has like a big kid quality. You know, that was perfect for it. And the other thing too is like because you work so hard at what what you do. Like you want to just work with people that are just like you want to be around, that are just going to
yeah.
go out and work and are just pleasant. It's hard enough when everybody's great, so like you don't really need the added complication of somebody being an asshole, you know, and also like we're dealing with kids in different ages. So the fact that he was just like a good dude and was right for the character, it was a perfect fit.
It's crazy because me being a former pro athlete and now still being an owner and connected to the game, I talk about this a lot with the podcast because we're a mix of sports business, and entertainment because I think there's a synergy. Like what you just said, everybody on this call is probably like blowing their mind because we have some new people that we're infusing into our show. And I
Right.
told them, like, I'm going to bring you this energy every time I pull up. Like, I don't care that I just had a terrible flight trying to get back from Vegas. I don't care what it is, but I'm gonna bring you this same energy because if we're gonna have to do it, we got to do it anyway. So why not do it a certain way? In your
Hmm.
experience, have you seen like how much synergy there is between athletes, entertainers, even just our worlds?
Yeah, I mean, well, you know what? So first of all, like, all right, I mean, I've been at this a minute, and first of all, I've actually worked with people that are kind of like on the come up, right? That be really feeling themselves, that like feeling themselves,
Uh-huh.
and you're like, what? And but I also had an experience where I got to hang out. It's a whole other story, but I got to hang out with Muhammad Ali, um, like 4 days in Florida when my son, our oldest son's name was Cassius. So like we were
What?
yeah, right. So we were hanging out with him for like 4 days, and this is Ali,
Like
and
the Muhammad
he,
Ali.
He wasn't even in great health. And when people came around, when they waved, like he lit up. He was so giving and so generous, and even like in Swagger, we have and the one that's gonna drop this Friday. We have like the legendary John Carlos, 1968 Olympics, raised his fist
You
up,
already
there,
know.
when the national anthem, and like his icon, and like his spirit, his love. Like he visited us in the writers' room and just talked about being a champion on the court and off the court. And it really made sense. I was like, yeah, I got to put this brother in our narrative. But so I really like met like the most iconic people that I've met, like that are like real champions. They haven't been that. It's really been like the other ones that maybe have some insecurity or something that's been that way. But like just and the same thing I found with artists. Like yo, like I don't know how this happened, but I was on an elevator one time going up to like this, I don't know, just this building, and I step on the elevator and I'm like, what the hell? And it's like Sidney Poitier. And I'm
No,
like, what the
not
hell?
not the original.
Sydney, and he was chill, like, he was still Sydney, but he was just giving and loving. So I've always like really thought, and I want to just sort of tell you like about the kid on, excuse me, I won't call him a kid anymore. He was a kid when we cast him, but a man now, Isaiah Hill,
Uh-huh.
um, who plays Jace.
And Jace is, just so everyone knows, is the main character that is the KD character of the story.
Yeah, and so when we say cut, we're a wrap for the day. You see Isaiah shaking as many hands of the crew as he can.
Wow.
Like that quality, like that culture that we look to create on our show, that's just authentic. I love it, and it just makes the work, it makes the product so much better. And so, I love that sort of symmetry of, as John Carlos said, and for in our case, champion on the set and champion off the set.
Yeah, that's, I had coaches that say how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think that's
Right.
kind of what sports teaches you. That's the thing about working with other athletes or working with people that work with athletes. And even like from the entertainers that I've met, we all have the same mentality. It's this work ethic mentality, a attitude of gratitude type mentality. So I definitely see that. Stay tuned for more with Reggie Bythewood. And you talked about like Isaiah is Jace's name. Like you said, that's as Isaiah. You talked about Isaiah, and that's the thing about swagger that I think is underlined that doesn't get talked about enough. It's like even how you address big issues. I remember season 1, there was the issue that happened at the restaurant that turned into a whole situation. I watch it with my son who is about to be a junior in high school, and it's almost like how swagger covers off the court affairs and reveals things like growing up in America. Can you elaborate on that dynamic of the show?
I mean, it's really about like holding the mirror up to society. You know, I mean, on some level, look, we're in many ways, like culturally, like we're under attack. And so, like the great thing about having a show and a platform, like I don't take the position that our job is just to quote unquote shut up and dribble, right? Like we have,
No.
we gotta like so yeah, we want to entertain. Part of our motto was like get the audience at the edge of their seat, and while they're leaning forward, hit them with the truth. So that's really a big part of our show. And I want to say one other thing, Renee. Like I really hope everybody gets to be caught up. I hope you and your son get to be caught up as soon as possible. But regardless whether you are or not, y'all should really see the one dropping on Friday. Even if you haven't get caught, like just tap into that. It's called Are We Free? And first of all, on a basketball level, we've done something cinematically that nobody's in the history of cinema has ever done.
What?
Is that we got this entire basketball game all in one shot, like no edits. It's all one
That's
long
really how they hooping.
shot. We really did it all in one shot, so it never cuts away. We may slip into slow motion, come back into regular speed, but we never cut. So like we've done something cinematically that's never been done before. But in terms of like you're gonna like talking about, I'm trying to say it in a way that doesn't give too much of it away, but like we're really proud of this one because it's entertaining, but it really I feel like says something that we've never seen said on TV before. So really, get caught up if you can, but even if you're not, just tap in to Maze 5. We call it a maze. We don't call it episodes. We call them mazes, and it's a huge part of the way that we approach our storytelling. So you can tap into to Are We Free? Drop in, this weekend. It'll be really dope.
I love that Maze 5. And why do you call it mazes? Because it's just all a part of one big. Like what's the Maze 5 part about?
Okay, so maze is this concept, right? So like our characters are on this journey, right? And so we like to say like life is not a straight line. It's got twists, turns, obstacles, and opportunities. So it's a maze. But when you really like lean into that maze and lean into the characters in that sort of way, you realize like the maze is like part of like the civil rights movement is a maze, like Reconstruction era is a maze. And like what if as writers we are telling this contemporary story, but understand we're standing on the shoulders of our ancestors and our grandparents and everyone that's come before us. So like it's always embedded in our storytelling, and it's a commitment that we make. And so therefore, because we approach it that way, we used to like we have a big jar in the center of our writers' room on a table. And if anybody said the E word that we would call it, episode, there's $1 would go into that jar.
Oh, wow.
So we would raise some money that way, and give it to somebody who is in need. But
Amazing.
yeah, but so like Maze is really a part of it. So I say Maze 5 because it's the 5th installment of season 2.
I love that. So Maze 5, episode 5, Are We Free Yet? You talked about being a writer though, and I would love to just know, there's currently the WGA and actors strike going on. like, what are your thoughts on the matter, and how do you think it's going to affect the industry in shows like Swagger moving forward?
I mean, I think, I can't really, so I have to like be outside of repercussions with the show or not, ultimately, like on some level, how this is like, the second like major strike I've been a part of. Like in 2007, there's a really, really big strike that went down. And so there were some shifts that were made, but maybe not enough because nobody really knew what streaming services were going to become, right? And so the model that we've had, the way that we've always operated in the industry doesn't match up to the model of streaming. And, there's a lot of writers that are on various levels. Like not everybody that's a writer is like making tons of money, and it's like people are really trying to build their careers together. And, like how every industry, let's just take sports, let's take basketball, like Bill Russell was the man back then, you know, Magic Johnson, like all these dudes with him, but they ain't making what they making now.
Right.
Like,
No
so like
question.
if you advance like 10 years, like you're making more money than cats before you were making.
Yeah,
But it's
Charles
not
Barkley talks about it a lot, where he did, $250 million contracts is unheard of, but that's normal
right,
now for the stars.
right. But, because of the previous model, like writers were making more money back then than they're making now. So that's like a weird thing, like
Yeah.
as you advance, you're making less. So, so there's just definitely, look, I for one want all the streaming services to do well. I want the industry to continue to grow. I feel like as a viewer, it's great to be able to have streaming services and control it in that way. And I'm sure at a certain point, maybe sooner than later, but at a certain point, everything will sync up and we'll, you know, um, um, have a system of fairness that everyone can participate in.
No, I mean, it when you were saying it makes like as you advance, you make less, it made me think about women's basketball, where with name, image, and likeness going on around, you talked about it with in the space, there's college players making $1 million plus, and then they come to the WNBA and
Right.
advance and maybe don't make the same amount. Something doesn't feel comfortable about that progression. So I definitely can feel that type of synergy with women's sports. As you progress, you want things to get better, a la look at MLS league, and now there's Messi coming into the league, and they're talking about like, if you invested 30 years ago, look at what would happen now with the salaries. So, and speaking of women's basketball, I can't, we love the Bythewood family here at
Mm,
MoCo, and we
yeah.
asked your wife Gina about you, so it's only right I'm going to ask you about her. And I'm just curious because she said you encouraged her to kind of go forward with loving basketball. Like she literally said, like you were one of the ones that was like the battery pack in her, which is it turned into a legend for women's basketball players like me. It's like our anthem. But what has she pushed you towards in your career? Having somebody that understands the industry right there with you.
I mean, what's interesting is like I never like know I want to be a filmmaker. I never aspired to marry a filmmaker. It was like, you always just feel like you just need to do the opposite. But, just to be able to just connect with somebody who understands it. And then there's like a level of just like grit that it really takes to persevere in this. I think, um, I think, with Gina, the the great give and take is the push to just follow your voice and to like understand if you don't say it, it won't be said.
Mm-hmm.
So that even when studios or networks or whoever like aren't getting it, to like just find a way to push through, to find a way to get this project made. Because if it is just about me, it's easy to step. But if it's about a cause bigger than yourself, whether it's family, it's your people, then you can't step. You got to stay in it, And so that sort of like determination and grit is just real, and that's kind of how we get down. And so, it's just really great to have that type of partner to kick it with.
Man, that's a power couple. I love that though. If it's bigger than you, you can't step. Like when the
Yeah.
cause is bigger than you got to stand 10 toes down. So I'm gonna, in that same thought, I'm gonna make sure that if you don't say it, it's not gonna get said. So I'm gonna say that I have a production company, Think Tank. I've already told Gina, I'm gonna tell you too. We have too much synergy in the sports and entertainment world not to figure out something in the future to work together. As you guys know, I stand 10 toes down for the culture, and I see that hearing you talk about the maze and everything. I'm like, man, that's incredible how you view even a show that people might think is just a sports show. You're like, nah, baby, you gonna get these stories. I'm gonna smack you with
Come
the
on
truth.
in.
You gonna get this truth. And so
That's it.
like, yeah, man. Like, I think that people, if you saw Swagger pop up on your screen, you thought, oh, it's probably just some kids playing hoops. It's really not. It's so much better than that. Like I said, I watch it with my son. He's way younger, obviously, but I feel like I love it even at my age. So I can't encourage people enough to check out Swagger on Apple TV. And before I let you go, you guys have an open invitation to an Atlanta Dream game whenever you guys are in town. I don't know where you guys are based,
Okay.
but pull up. I know you look. I see you with the new. I saw you with the New York, but pull up on us. Doing some things here in Atlanta.
Okay, cool. We appreciate that. And by the way, I'm just really loving how the women's game is just growing. And even on the whole thing of a voice, like the athletes in the WNBA, like when they speak out, like the way that they've used their platform has definitely been inspiring, and definitely has inspired a lot of the storytelling we're doing.
I love that. Thank you for that. I'm like, clip that, Gino. Okay, like that's amazing. So thank you guys, and always, Reggie. Like I said, the Bythewood family. Anytime you have projects, Moco is always a home. Let's talk about it. Thank you for joining me.
Appreciate it. All right, thanks so much.
Man, it's been a pleasure to talk to, especially with everything that's going on with the writer's strike and the actor's strike. It's been a pleasure to talk to creators, to just hear their thought processes on what they decide to even create, what they're backing, what they're writing, how they feel about the things they create. Coming off of talking to Ryan Coogler last week and now talking to Reggie Bythewood this week. I mean, I feel like I'm getting in the minds of some of the top creators in entertainment, period, and sports and entertainment. I say this all the time, so synonymous in the grind, the thought process, the why of why you do things. Like you guys know, for me, my why is it's generational. So I'll see y'all next week where it's a generational thing.